People watching this who are thinking about getting backyard chickens or backyard any sort of animal that is clearly a farm animal: flies, pests, smells, poop. That's the summary. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? What are you doing? What are you doing, huh? Get over here. Look at all these flowers. They are looking lush, I will tell you what. Got some more coming up over there. Daisies are looking good. Look at these hostas. These hostas came from my mom in New York, and they are thriving. It's about to pop, this hollyhock. I am the plant daddy, as you can see. But today's video is not about plants. As you read from the title, we've made the tough decision to part with our backyard chickens. So these are our 3 backyard chickens. We used to have 2. If you guys have followed the channel at all, that will help explain why this video is being made. Get out of there, get. Anyway, if you followed the channel, you probably saw my first video about backyard chickens, the pros and cons video. Back then we only had 2 chickens. We had that dark one back there, Tink. We had another one named Stormcloud. Stormcloud was awesome. She was a massive chicken. She would lay these eggs that were like freaking baseballs. Anyway, we've made the tough decision to get rid of these guys. And before anybody goes off crazy going, where are you getting rid of them? You got to make sure, blah, blah. They're just going back to Hannah's brother Josh's house. That's where they came from. He's got a farm there. He's got a bunch of chickens. So they're going to go to a place where they're definitely going to be not only happier, but they'll be able to roam and be out and about every day and be happy. So they love this area over here. As you can see, all the seeds from the bird feeder. I've had a squirrel that's just been destroying this thing, and I kind of gave up on it because it's all just seeds down in there. This is where the bird feeder used to be. So those are all just black oil sunflower seed. Anyway, I figured it would be not only informative, but helpful for anyone who's considering getting backyard chickens to figure out why we're getting rid of them. So that's why I decided to make this video. Asher's gonna miss them, aren't you, buddy? You're gonna miss them. You wanna get up here? This is reminiscent of the first video I made last summer when I got them. Anyway, it'll give the perspective of like a homeowner like this who lives in a neighborhood, and the cons. So basically what got us to this point was the cons outweighed the pros, and we made a decision last year that if that ever slightly starts to happen, we're just going to get rid of them, because A, we know they have a good home to go back to, and B, we don't ever want to resent them. Whenever we get a piece of land, obviously we want to farm, so we don't want to resent having chickens, and we know that basically all you need is a little bit of space between you and them for it to be good. But right now, the close-knit nature of our relationship is mostly to blame. So let me get into 3 or 4 main reasons why we decided to get rid of them. So the first one we're going to talk about is this here Coop. We made this last year. It's literally just an 8x8 fenced in area. This is just chicken wire right here, and then I hooked it onto the post of the fence. These aren't even driven into the ground. They're just sitting there. And then the tarp for the roof. Where we're at right now with it, we would need some infrastructure changes basically. So this coop is starting to get old. You can see right there, it's starting to fall apart. So we were gonna need to build nesting boxes. Look at that, they're laying eggs on the ground. We're gonna give this to Josh so he can raise some poults in it or something. And we were gonna need to build nesting boxes and a new roof, and it was gonna be an investment into this. And when we were kind of starting to make those decisions to try to figure out what we needed to do, it was when the other cons started to kind of present themselves, mostly because it was changing from spring to summer. So we do like this. This was a good structure, it still is. And I actually have some other ideas for what I'm going to turn this into. So this isn't going anywhere. There's another video to come. It has something to do with that. So what changed as it turned from, winter to spring to summer in terms of the chickens? Mostly it was how much we wanted to be outside and what we were doing with the landscaping, and we realized how intrusive they are on all of those things, which is nothing of their fault whatsoever. We knew what they were going to be like and what they were going to do. Now last year was a little bit different. Like I said, we had 2 chickens last year, and for the most part they stayed in the coop. I clipped their wings this year because I didn't feel it was fair for them to be sitting here looking out at a yard, and especially a yard that's fenced in. So I clipped their wings, and I said, if we're gonna have them, we gotta let them roam. If that's what causes us to have to get rid of them, absolutely fine with that, because they love to roam and they love to pick bugs out in the yard, and they just seem so much happier. So part 2 of why we decided to get rid of them is because of this right here. This is where we spend most of our time in the summer. So last year we built this patio out here, and we spend, you know, most of our time sitting in those chairs. If we have a bonfire, we'll also just hang out there and sit out in the sun if we want to. I work from here. We have a little fan under here. We got our plants. We got a bunch of plants sitting there. Dog bed. So it's awesome out here. Why would we not spend most of our time out here anyways? The problem is it's Tennessee here, so it gets really hot, and all the animals are constantly looking for shade. And they look for cool weather. So when they would always be coming onto the patio here and pooping and making a mess out here. You can kind of see the remnants of all that they would do. It's starting to rain a little bit, which is awesome. But so I would be out here cleaning all the time, and they would just be sitting right here because they knew where we were. If we weren't out here, they'd just be looking for food and such. I'm gonna hop under this umbrella really quick just to, this is awesome. It's been such a rainy year. It's in the 70s and it's almost July in Tennessee. Like, this doesn't happen whatsoever. I'm not complaining. I'll take it. So that was the first thing that started to happen to make us start to question things and get frustrated, really. You know, people would be tiptoeing walking out that door because most likely the birds were all sitting right there at the door waiting for us to come out, and so where they're standing around, they're pooping, and it was just not getting in the yard, so it's not being used as fertilizer. The dog was getting into it, we were stepping in it, it was constantly having to go get the hose to wash off the patio, and I didn't think that was going to happen, to be honest. I figured that they would be in the landscaping, in the grass, trying to get out into the woods back there, because we do just have that cattle guard fence, and I figured if any of our problems were going to present themselves, they would be in the back side of the property. But the opposite happened. They were just trying to hang out and get inside. At one point, you might have seen one of my YouTube shorts that the gray chicken that we have, her name's Olive, she got inside when I left the door open one time and discovered the dog food that's right by the door on the inside. And man, that was like, it was like catnip for them. It was like a drug, and they were obsessed with it. So they would just sit there at the door and try to get in the house and get at the dog food. And it was kind of becoming a problem because on the cooler days of spring, where we'd want to keep the door open and we'd want to have them out, they were just getting inside and pooping in the house. Oh God, it was a mess. Part 2 of the issues that began was especially with this flower bed. So I built this flower bed last year because all under us right here, I know it's surprising with this grass, it looks lush, but all under us is just awful soil. You can't dig. You know, the roots of this grass are only maybe 2 inches deep. This is actually tall fescue, and it's mowed down to about, it's an inch here and about an inch and a half over there, because the roots will not, it's barely hanging on. If it wasn't such a cool year, all of this would be dead, it would be burnt, because the roots just aren't deep whatsoever. So we have rough soil, so I built this raised bed, and everything has worked out perfectly exactly the way I planned it. That was going to be a wildflower bed. We put sunflowers in there, sunflower seeds, and it's just beautiful. It's taken to be perfect, and I love flowers. I love gardening. That is my favorite thing to do. When I planted it, obviously we had issues with birds and stuff, but the chickens would just not get out of there. I put some of that whatever fence, the cattle fence down from that was left over from the back fence, and that wasn't a problem. We like we said earlier, we expected that to happen. And his brother, he told us that would happen. We were prepared for all of this. It was just a matter of how we wanted to respond to it and how we felt about it and if we cared or not. And it turns out that, you know, that was pretty important for us to have you know, our flowers and whatnot. They haven't really bothered the rest of the garden whatsoever. The problem is that we want to have flower beds that go around the whole fence line, just because it's so pretty and it just is amazing. Like, we get butterflies, we get every sort of pollinator that's around. They all come in here and they love it. We decided we wanted that to be a priority. And the real issue with the landscaping is like mulch. Like here, the mulch, they'll scrape through it and they'll get good bugs and stuff, and we wanted them to be happy and to have that. But it's just been incessant with trying to keep them, you know. We figured that having the rest of the backyard and back by the fence and all those areas, they might hang out under there, especially under the trampoline where it's all weeds, and we let that grow up tall. Like, we mowed it. We tried to figure out what they actually wanted. Nope. They just wanted to be in the mulch. They just want to scrape under there where all the grubs would hang out. I can't blame them for what they do. That was reason number 2, landscaping. They would just destroy flower beds, landscaping. As you saw earlier, I'm trying to plant some seed right here just from where they destroyed. You can check out my latest short, but they dug a huge hole here where they love just to lay in the dirt when it gets hot. So they had a big dirt hole that they had dug, so I filled it in and planted seed, and they're, you know, anytime I let them out of there, they go straight from there to here and scrape around because they're seed in there and they're chickens, and that's what they do. They're birds. I don't blame them for that. I don't feel that bad about sending them to a place where they don't have to feel bad for being chickens. So quite possibly the last part of this decision. Check this out. This is freaking gross. This was an attempt to divert the issue away from the house, but it's impossible. It's not going to happen. See those flies? That thing is full of flies and maggots and grubs, and it's so disgusting. And it smells like death. So you can literally see how many flies there are. So if you're, on a side note, if you're looking for something to get rid of flies, this would be it. Look at that. That's so gross. Oh my God. Burn my hand off after that. So yes, flies are a huge problem, massive problem, enormous problem. You can't sit in the backyard without having flies buzzing all around you. So far, this is the best of how they are. Put this stupid attractant out in the woods. We're probably 50 yards from the house, and that's what we need to do to try to get them away from the chickens, and it still doesn't work. It lessens it, but it's not ideal. And that's only one part of the pest problem. Here we're out in the garage. Excuse the mess in here. It's a little chaotic. Don't really have an excuse for that. We're just chaotic. We were out here working today, building some shelves, and there's flies flying around the garage. We've also started to get mice running along the fence line, getting into the chicken coop, and now they made their way into the house thanks to those cracks right there. The flies are terrible. The mice are terrible. The other thing that I was worried about was the foxes and skunks. We've had a lot of skunk issues back here, going through the fence line right there, trying to get in to the coop from the backside. We've also had foxes that are, you know, a fox went onto our neighbors across the street. People are getting videos of foxes like kind of all around our house, and we can't help but wonder if that's because, you know, they know where the chickens are, they're trying to get at them. It's a little bit alarming for the neighbors, and that's mostly the main reason why we've decided to do it, because with the pests that are around and the smells and all, you know, these are farm animals, and we knew that we were taking this risk getting them. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable at all in their house. That was like a no-brainer for us once the fly situation got bad. With how the proximity is between houses, you got to cut it off there. Once spring and summer hit and those problems started to arise, we decided it was time. And that's not a problem at all. We knew this was an experiment. You know, we live in an HOA neighborhood. It was potentially a problem. Even though our city has an ordinance that we're allowed to have chickens, we knew it was going to be something that could be pulled out from under us at any point in time. It's really not a big deal, but in terms of people watching this who are thinking about getting backyard chickens or backyard guineas or any sort of animal that is clearly a farm animal, and they're going to keep them outside, flies, pests, smells, poop. That's the summary. If you're willing to put up with those issues and you're not that close to your neighbors where any of those issues will directly impact them on a daily, then go for it. And they are awesome. They are, for the whole winter, I loved waking up, letting them out. I had no problem with the responsibility. These were well taken care of animals. They were fun. They were healthy. They were happy. It really just, we knew it was going to be a test once summer came and the flies started acting up, and that's fine. And so anyway, on to the new chapter of what that is. We've had great success with these raised beds. So we have a bunch of those veggies that we didn't really get to plant anywhere. We thought we were gonna have room in there, and then that just took off. We do have some strawberries and some tomatoes in there, but that we are gonna be turning into a raised vegetable garden, since it basically is, it's exactly what you need for raised beds. It's attached to the fence irrigation system, so we'll be able to run lines through there. Basically have all the infrastructure. We'll have to make minor upgrades and actually build the beds in there, but so stay tuned for that. We'll be building that hopefully here soon, so we can get those in the garden. They might not live through this year, and that's fine, but having it in place, it's pretty cool. Plus, you know, a chicken coop, nobody wants to move into a house. If we had to sell this house, if I got a job out of town, nobody wants a house in the city with a chicken coop. That's kind of gives off gross vibes. So a vegetable garden not only will increase the value of that space, but it's also not a deterrent for anybody looking at this house. And I'm not planning to move, but you know, it's just something to think about. If you're a homeowner, you got to think about that stuff. You got to think about maintenance. You got to think about all those things. So anyway, I've been rambling a bunch. Just want to give you guys a heads up. There probably won't be any more backyard chicken updates. They're gonna move on to bigger, better, greener pastures out at a real farm. Thanks for watching, guys.